Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today for supporting Braille access in the library with the NNELS collection. My name is Rianne Lepere, and I am the Braille Coordinator here at the National Network for Equitable Library Access, or Service, sorry. And I've been working in the alternate format space since 2012, and I'm passionate about contributing to the advancement of an equitable reading landscape. In my spare time, I enjoy volunteering for the Saskatoon Blind Skiers, the Royal Canadian Legion, reading, gardening, and playing music. Also presenting today is Simon Jagger, who is an accessibility expert here at NNELS and a lifelong Braille reader who brings both professional expertise and lived experience to supporting accessible reading. And then we also have a guest appearance from Peter Field, who is also an accessibility expert with NNELS. In 2019, he completed a 28-year career with Canada's Federal Public Service, and he's now pursuing his passion in areas of diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility. For example, he's consulted on projects with the province of British Columbia's President's Group, the Rick Hansen Foundation, and the Vancouver International Airport Authority. He's undertaken research and inclusion projects with the research team of the CNIB and is now happy to have rejoined NNELS. And in his not so much spare time, he leads the Triple Vision podcast team in developing monthly podcasts on issues of blindness in Canada. So if you have a moment, you should check that out. So we would like to acknowledge the historical oppression of land, cultures, and original peoples in what we now know as Canada. We respect and affirm the inherent and treaty rights of all Indigenous peoples across this land and will continue to honor the commitments to self-determination and sovereignty we have made to Indigenous nations and peoples. Please take a moment to acknowledge the lands on which you live, work, and play. Depending on the number of questions and discussions, our webinar today will be approximately 45 to 60 minutes over 31 slides, but given that we're already halfway done slide 4, it's a little bit less. Following each section of this webinar, we will pause for questions. You can use the raise hand feature and unmute yourself when prompted, or use the chat to ask questions. There will also be question time and discussion at the end. So the National Network for Equitable Library Service, or NNELS, is funded by the provincial and territorial governments of British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Nova Scotia, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and Yukon, and housed by the BC Libraries Cooperative, a nonprofit that supports libraries and related organizations across Canada. All Braille projects at NNELS are funded through Canadian federal grant programs such as the Equitable Access to Reading program. So now while we are all here, what is Braille? Braille is a tactile writing system using raised dots that many blind and visually impaired people use to read and write. Braille is not a language, it is a code that represents letters, numbers, and other symbols. The dots are organized into cells of usually 6 dots where the pattern of raised dots represent different characters. And Braille is very much equivalent to print and equals print. So we have 3 photos here. The one in the center is a Braille cell with 2 columns of 3 dots each, and the dots on the side are numbered 1, 2, 3, and the dots on the right side are numbered 4, 5, 6, going down the columns. And again, as mentioned, those combinations of dots are what we get letters and words and symbols from. On the far left picture, we have a picture of embossed hard copy Braille of the Griffin Poetry Prize. And this was our first simultaneous release. And so we have 1 volume kind of standing up against a wall. You can see a print title page, a clear plastic cover, and then a clear or transparent plastic label with Braille on it going vertically along the spine, and it is comb bound. And then kind of in front of it is an opened book of Braille with you can kind of see the dots on both sides of the paper. That's called interpoint, where the Braille is on both sides of the paper. So you can see dots that are raised, and then you can see indented dots kind of at the bottom of the left page there. And then on the far right, we have a print Braille book opened up, and this one's called the hockey jersey, and it's actually sitting on top of a red hockey jersey. And it's open to the kind of the end of the book where it says this book belongs to, write your name and number on the jersey and join the team. And over top of the print book here, we have transparent Braille labels that have been brailled to say what the text does. And then on the opposing side of the paper, the Braille sticker there actually is an image description of what is on the other page. So there are different types of Braille. Braille codes exist for many languages. NNELS currently produces Braille in English in the Unified English Braille Code, or UEB, French in Code Braille Français Uniformisé, or CBFU, and the Micmac Braille Code. Basically, anything that's in print can be transcribed into Braille, including novels, nonfiction, poetry, cookbooks, and more. NNELS primarily produces books from Canadian publishers and authors in the following types of Braille. So we have hard copy or embossed Braille, which is physical. We have long form titles with only Braille. So those are like your novels or some nonfiction. We have print Braille books that include print and Braille. We also have of these, there are multiple use Braille. So these are made with high quality paper and high quality binding materials. And those are available through the distributed Braille collection. And then we also have single use Braille, which is available through the embossed Braille service. And this is very much self-explanatory. It's used once, maybe twice, and then recycled. There's also electronic Braille, which is a digital file. And then there's tactile graphics, which can be digital or physical, but usually physical. And then just a little bit more about picture books. So many picture books are turned into what's called print Braille or Braille print books. For those of you who've been around in the space as long as I have or older, they used to also have a proprietary name called Twin Vision. That term isn't really found too much. I don't think that company works or exists anymore. But if you do hear it in the space, they're just referring to a print Braille book. So print Braille books are usually made by either inserting transparent plastic sheets of Braille or transparent stickers with the Braille into the commercial picture book. NNELS has a growing collection of print Braille books in both English and in French that are available digitally and through the distributed Braille collection. And here's a picture a little bit closer of a print Braille book. This one's in French. And the great thing about these is that they can be enjoyed by children and adults alike. So this could be a Braille reading child reading with a Braille reading adult, a Braille reading child reading with a sighted adult, a sighted child reading with a Braille reading adult, or it maybe is someone who has usable vision but also reads Braille, so they can use the text and pictures and Braille, or maybe just the pictures in Braille to get the full experience. Many of the print Braille books that NNELS has produced include image descriptions for the pictures where needed, which is mostly all of them. And so in the picture here, we have a small young witch kneeling in a pond, skipping rocks, and a little frog in the pond holding up a number 3 because the rock skipped 3 times. For now, I'm going to hand it over to Simon to talk about tactile graphics and drawings.
Okay, thanks. So tactile graphics and drawings are pretty much what they sound like. They are raised versions of an image produced using a specialized embosser or other equipment. And just as Braille provides a tactile, non-visual alternative to print, these tactile representations of images can provide a non-visual alternative to an image. There might be reasons that you would want to learn spatially, and it is counterintuitively possible for blind people to be very visual learners, or I guess spatial learners, would be the more accurate term. So these images can give the same level of understanding as looking at the image might give visually. And these can be something as simple as a geometric shape or something as complex as a map. Some books in the NNELS repository include tactile images. These include This Is How I Know, The Poppy War, and the transit map of the Toronto Transit System. So to demonstrate this and to show what these look like, we have a demo from one of my former coworkers.
Hi, my name is Kai. I'm an accessibility analyst at NNELS, and I love reading books. I read ebooks, audiobooks, and hard copy Braille books, especially ones with tactile graphics. There's something very visceral about holding a book, feeling and hearing pages rustle as you turn them, and being able to pick up ideas from tactile illustrations. I'm excited that NNELS has a collection of hard copy Braille books via interlibrary loan. Hard copy Braille books can look like this: a thick volume of Braille with a plastic cover and plastic binding. Or like this, a comparatively thinner volume where there's visual images and Braille on the same page. They can come in several volumes and can get quite big, but they make up for their size and how content is presented to the reader. Unlike reading books on a refreshable Braille display, like the one that I'm holding up right now, I don't have to pan the display after every 40 characters and can get a much better sense of formatting where it matters, such as with lit RPG books that have stat tables and poetry books where spaces and lines convey meaning. Additionally, I can seamlessly access diagrams and illustrations in an accessible way with tactile graphics, as some titles include them as part of the reading experience. Tactile graphics are images that can be felt with the fingers, as they are made up of raised lines and shading using different textures and patterns. When I look at a graph, diagram, and illustration tactily, I can precisely determine how each part of an image is related to each other, as well as shapes and sizes of objects in a way that I can't get with words alone. As much as I find textual image descriptions to be useful, they can't convey all the spatial information that a picture can provide. Here's some examples. This one is of a rose with a bud sprouting from the stem and some leaves around it. And you can tell when the area is shaded in, there's a very distinct feel to the image. Below this, again, is the Braille, and the Braille has a textual image description of what's being shown in the image. Here we have another example, this one a little bit more complicated. This is a map of North America, and there are a lot of areas that are marked on the map using different dots, and there are boundaries that are represented by different types of lines. On the right side is a page of Braille that contains a description of the areas and cities and landmarks that are marked on this particular map. Here's another image from the same book. This is a map of Canada, and again, we can see that different lines are used to represent different boundaries. We can tell that landmarks are marked using dots. There's Braille to represent what the landmarks are, and then on the page that's facing it, there's the legend again that describes the letter abbreviations that are used to find different areas on the map. We are proud to offer hard copy Braille books that are human transcribed, with some titles offering tactile graphics. To access these titles and more, visit your local public library. And to learn more about NNELS, visit nels.ca.
So Braille music uses the same Braille cells that we saw before to represent everything about music, not just the notes, but the note length, the octave, the dynamics, the rests, and so on. The symbols mean different things, but it uses the same 6 dots. Some people think that Braille music looks like print music with lines and spaces between those lines, but it works quite differently, and the way that we read it is more like the way that we read literary Braille, where each symbol means something and they're meant to be read kind of in sequence. NNELS is excited to have Braille music in our collection and to be working with Conservatory Canada and Andrew Harbridge on the new graded piano series. So we're moving on to electronic Braille, and we have a short demo that introduces this. So let's just play that and then move on.
Hello, I'm an accessibility tester at NNELS. As a lifelong reader, I love finding books from the NNELS repository because the collection has a wide range of file formats available, including BRF. BRF Braille-ready formats render contracted UEB Braille code onto Braille display, Braille embossers, and transcribing softwares. The transcribed Braille in the BRF format provide better accuracy and consistency than computer-generated Braille. Just like any other formats, search in the repository, filter the results to books with BRF files available, click on the link to download, and extract the zip file. Load the files onto a Braille display and read with its built-in features, or open with its Braille transcribing softwares, connect your device to a Braille display, and enjoy your book.
So BRF Braille files can be downloaded from the NNELS repository. There's quite a few in the collection, and they can be used on note takers or refreshable Braille devices, more on that in a moment, or they can be embossed in hard copy to be read. These BRF files are either made directly by NNELS, or they come from one of our sharing partners, or they're made available through the Marrakesh Treaty via the Accessible Books Consortium's Global Book Service. There are instructions on the NNELS website for downloading Braille files onto many common devices at NNELS.ca/help. So let's talk about refreshable Braille displays and note takers. These are essentially combination e-readers and Braille output devices for anything like a computer or mobile device. They are an electronic device that can be used by Braille readers, and they have moving pins inside them that can display the Braille cells in a tactile format for Braille readers to read, and they can change the line very, very quickly, almost instantaneously, so that a single line can display as many Braille characters as you need, usually 20 or 40 at a time, and then you can move to the next line and get the next line of Braille cells instantly. Some Braille displays are multi-line, but these are way less common. And these can be used to read the Braille files, such as the ones from the NNELS repository, or they can be used with a computer or a mobile device so that the user can read the contents of the screen in Braille. So to demonstrate this, there's a recorded demo by me, which shows a Braille display in action. What you're looking at, apart from my phone screen, is called a refreshable Braille display. This particular one is called the BrailleSense U2 Mini. It's by HIMS Incorporated, and in addition to connecting with a phone or computer to show me what they're displaying, it can also do basic note-taking, calculations, and web browsing, as well as reading books off an SD card. These are unfortunately quite expensive devices still, but they're coming down in price with new introductions such as the Orbit Reader. So what this is doing right now is displaying the contents of my phone screen. I also have VoiceOver, the screen reader, loaded with speech.
Speech on.
So right now it's sending to both the Braille display and the speech synthesizer. If I go forward on the Braille display,
Search button.
I get Search BTN. This is an 18-character display, so it's trying to abbreviate as much as possible.
Bestsellers, hitting.
Bestsellers, HD.
The Queen's Gambit, by Walter Tevis. Narrated by Amy Landon. 11 hours, 50 minutes. Speech off.
It's worth noting that I can turn off speech and navigate with just the display. Promised Land, Barack Obama, narrated by Barack Obama, 29 hours, 10 minutes. So yeah, these Braille displays, some libraries may choose to purchase them, and they might hook them up to the public computers, or they might put them on loan for blind Braille reading patrons to borrow, or they might use them for other programs. If your library is interested in doing this, we have recommendations available to help aid your purchasing decision. This is on nnels.ca/library under the technology section. And now I'm going to hand it back to Rianne.
Thanks so much, Simon. Right. So Braille files can only be opened with specific Braille software or by using a Braille device. And I get actually a lot of questions about this. So I kind of wanted to show a little bit about what it would look like for a Braille transcriber or a proofreader when they are looking at a Braille file. So on the right-hand side of the screen is the Duxbury Braille transcription software. And I have a Braille music file actually opened up here at the kind of the top of the page where the dark solid line is a page number of the print equivalent. And actually that might be the running head. Let's see here, yes, it is the running head. My apologies. So some books have like a running head to say where you are in the book. And then there's the music and the text put into Braille. And then there's like a different page number there that is equivalent to the print. Oops. And normally at the bottom of the page, there'd be a Braille page number as well. But we don't get to see it because there's not enough screen space. And then in the software itself, there is a yellow bar at the bottom of the screen that does like a print translation. A lot of proofreaders will just use it as a double check, but 9 times out of 10, they're using the Braille. And so when you see the dots that are dark, those are basically simulated raised Braille cells. And then just in case you couldn't catch it in Melody's demo, just a quick way to filter and find the electronic Braille file for download in our repository. The distributed Braille collection. So NNELS produces embossed Braille books, and because there isn't one physical Braille book library that Braille readers can easily visit, NNELS decided to put a call out to libraries to volunteer to help give these books a home. We kind of figured that with Braille in multiple places, we would be able to utilize what libraries already have. They have staff, they have a library catalog, they're already involved with the community, they have programs and services, and so why not just put Braille where it can be out in the wild? So Braille books in the distributed Braille collection are produced in high quality Braille using high quality materials and are intended to be read multiple times. So far we have over 25 public libraries across Canada that serve as Braille host libraries for NNELS produced Braille books. Host libraries are responsible for circulating these titles without restriction locally and Canada-wide by interlibrary loan. And the Braille can be shipped for free using Canada Post's free literature for the blind service. NNELS also provides a way of helping libraries get these books on the shelf a little quicker by offering a MARC record that can be requested so it can be easily ingested into the ILS. And we kind of just ask that people take care of them and at the end of the day, NNELS is responsible for any repairs or replacements if it needs to be replaced. And we're always looking for more host libraries. And in return, you get hopefully people in your library using them, if not through interlibrary loan. And occasionally we might ask for circ stats if you can provide them. And if not, we go, okay. So it's not a huge problem. But we are always looking for more host libraries. You can look for more information on our website. So how does the distributed Braille collection, how's it supposed to work? So theoretically, a Braille reading patron would contact or visit their local library to borrow Braille. If the Braille is not available in their library, the NNELS repository can be searched to find out where the title is hosted. The local library then performs an interlibrary loan the same way they would any other material. The Braille reading patron would then be notified when the book is ready for pickup or delivery if you offer homebound services. When the patron returns the book, the borrowing library then returns the book back to the host library using Canada Post. And now we're going to, while you look at boxes of Braille on my floor that were ready to go out to different publishers and libraries, we're going to hear from Peter with a little bit of an experience of how he has experienced getting Braille.
Thanks very much, Rianne, and thanks everybody today. So as Rianne says, I'm an accessibility expert with NNELS, and I happen to be doing one of these seminars with Rianne and others for library patrons back in June and July. And I thought, well, I don't have a Braille book handy here, so I better get one, or I'd like to get one. It's been a while. So I went to my local library and requested a Braille title, and I waited a couple of weeks. And they got back to me to say, well, the I'll call the central branch of this regional library system said it's going to be 3 months. And I thought, 3 months, that's kind of crazy. And my seminar is in a month. So I said, well, thanks for checking into this, but 3 months is too long for what I need. So I'll just not proceed with the request. And that kind of sat with me for a bit, for a couple of weeks, and I thought, well, but I really do want to read a Braille book. So I went to that central branch and asked for the Braille title once again. And I think I had to go to 2 different people. I had to go to one part of that branch, to another part of that branch, to I don't know what they called it, sort of special needs or home supports or something like that. And I requested that book. So I requested that book again, probably early June, and there's been no word yet as to when I might receive it. So I guess they're really sticking to their 3-month standard here. So really, without sort of casting dispersions on anybody, I just wanted to pass that along, that really this is not or should not be this difficult. It's, as Rianne and both Simon have suggested, it's an interlibrary loan. We know where the book is. The book is 1 province away. We're not sure what's taking the time. Really, as we've been sort of talking about today, this shouldn't be anything terribly special or difficult. So I just wanted to leave that message with you as librarians, that it's a fairly simple process. And if you ever run into any difficulty, Rianne is an email away, and she's more than happy to help facilitate any process. So thanks very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Peter. So now we're going to move on to a new service that we just kind of launched, is called the Embossed Braille service. So in a partnership with CELA, the Center for Equitable Library Access, NNELS now offers a single-use embossed Braille service. So these books are intended to be read once and then recycled. They're printed on recycled paper. They don't have as much structural integrity, so the Braille itself wears down much quicker. And they're also fan folded. They're not comb homebound. They don't have like covers on them, like protective covers or anything. So the kind of hitch with these is that the titles must already exist in the NNELS, SELA, or Global Book Service catalogs. Print Braille and tactile graphics are not included in this service. And there are two modes of access. We have direct requests and grab and go titles. So for the direct access to embossed Braille, Braille reading patrons, library staff, or library staff can request single-use embossed Braille titles directly from the NNELS website. The titles are then shipped directly to the patron using Canada Post's Free Literature for the Blind service to the provided address in the form. And like I mentioned, these books are printed on different paper and do not need to be returned after the patron is done reading them. They can recycle them or read them for as long as they would like. And then the second mode of access are grab and go titles of or a little free Braille library. So this is kind of based on the concept of a little free little free library. Um, and these titles are kind of a little bit different in the fact that you don't need to like leave a book when you take a book and you don't need to return it. It's more like a take a book. So libraries can sign up for grab and go single-use Braille books, and then these titles are shipped to the library using Canada Post's Literature for the Blind service. So there's like the form that you fill out here, and you can um, kind of find a space for them in your library, make them available, advertise that it exists. You don't need to catalog them. You don't need to worry about circulation. Just hope that people take them. In the form, you can say if you want English or French, or if you would like fiction or nonfiction or different genres, and then or if you just want a surprise of books. So we've already had a couple libraries sign up, and we are excited to get the books out. The turnaround time is generally about a week to 2 weeks from the time of the request to the time of delivery. Of course, that can be delayed if Canada Post is delayed. All right, I think we can hand it back over to Simon with some tips to support Braille readers.
Okay, thanks. So I think that the main thing about supporting a Braille reader, a Braille reading library patron, is that Braille readers are just normal patrons. They should be treated like all other patrons. This probably sounds like common sense, and you may not need to hear this, but other people may need to hear this. And this means disability etiquette, but it also means demystifying the process of obtaining Braille. As is proven by Peter's story earlier, sometimes that can be complicated by other people not knowing the procedures. So in terms of disability etiquette, NNELS actually has some information about that on accessiblelibraries.ca. And in terms of obtaining Braille, I think it's important for all the staff to know where to find information about that. Maybe not to be experts about it, but just to know that it's possible and to know where to find information about that so that people are not caught off guard and wondering what to do and thinking that it's way more complicated than it needs to be. I think that Braille should be everyone's responsibility. Okay, and I'm going to hand it back to Rianne to talk more about learning Braille.
Thank you so much, Simon. So I get this question a lot, so I just thought I'd throw a slide in here to share. So if your library ever receives inquiries about where to learn Braille as an adult, who is new to blindness, for example, there are programs available. There are many different programs, but one that we like to highlight because we have a little bit of a partnership with them is Braille Literacy Canada's Braille Zoomers program. So this is an online monthly peer support group for adults who are new to learning Braille or need a refresher. You can visit Braille Literacy Canada's website to learn more about the program. And as I mentioned, we have a bit of a partnership with Braille Literacy Canada in the sense that we um, are working to produce specific titles that have been selected for this group through the Embossed Braille service. So these are kind of like high interest, low vocabulary books. Um, but for adults. They're shorter fiction, they're fast reads, they're still very much I don't want to say like adult content without making it sound shifty, but of adult interest. And what we do with the Braille here is we can produce it in contracted Braille, which is what we normally expect, which is kind of like shorthand. And then also uncontracted Braille, which is letter for letter, word for word. And then these Braille books also have options for line spacing. So we can double space the lines or have them regular spaced just to make them easier to track with the fingers when someone is learning Braille. So then these would then be able to be requested and sent out. And then Braille Literacy Canada is going to be running online book clubs with this group in the fall to help boost their reading experience. Now, not everybody wants to read novels when they learn Braille as an adult. Some people just want to label things in their houses or make shopping lists, things like that. But some people do want to continue reading in this way, and because maybe audiobooks aren't for them. So we certainly want to be able to support them in any way we can. And then one other thing that NNELS kind of does is each January we coordinate celebrations for World Braille Day in collaboration with organizations like the Center for Equitable Library Access, the Provincial Resource Center for the Visually Impaired in BC, Braille Literacy Canada, the Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians, CNIB, the Canadian Council of the Blind, and Alternate Education Resources Ontario. So these events include live webinars and downloadable Braille activities and programs. Information about up-to-date information can be found on our website, on our landing page at nels.ca/WBD. And so the planning committee is actually in planning 2026 events already. And one of the highlights this year is that we're working on packages for libraries to use and adapt for your own programming. So there'll be things for accessible gaming where Braille can be involved, some pen and paper activities, some guides and program packages complete with advertising and social media posts and things like that, for accessible book clubs, story times, and other kind of programming. So please stay tuned. We will have more information in our newsletter and available on social media. And we look forward to being able to provide just another way that you can celebrate World Braille Day. So even though NNELS has only been producing Braille for 5 years, we still have a lot to offer and look forward to growing thanks to feedback from Braille readers. NNELS is here to support Braille readers, and it's all done with a deep belief that access to reading is a right, not a privilege. And I would say that support extends to the libraries that are also serving Braille readers in their communities. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that you'll explore and share what NNELS has to offer. And of course, if you have any questions, please do reach out to support@nels.ca.